Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the podcast. Today I wanted to re-invite Tommy Gentleman and also the CEO of Tide 55 onto the podcast to talk about how our relationship has kind of changed since the last podcast. Those of you who may have not seen some of the work me and him have ended up actually doing the last couple of months. So I thought it would be good to bring him back on to talk about our relationship and how it's changed, and also to hear some insight from his side on how he feels my progression has been, but also how he feels that Ty's progression has been as well.
Great to be here. My name's Tommy Gentleman, and I'm the founder and owner of Tide 55 Digital Marketing. And I didn't say that last time because it didn't exist, but it was becoming. It was forming, which I'm sure you'll allude to today. But it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, mate.
No, it's all good. No, I mean, the main reason I think the first question that people are going to ask is, why is Tommy back on the podcast? Aren't you sick of hearing Tommy's voice? The answer to both of those is yes, I kind of am in some ways. But I think it was good to, I wanted to have you on because I wanted to sort of explore from my context or your context on what's changed between our first podcast episode and this episode. So, firstly, before we get into that, how did you find the first, if you can remember, how did you find the first podcast specifically? Because I think for me that's interesting to hear, because I kind of want to build the story as if no one knows what we've done since, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So how did you find, what was your first initial reaction from the first podcast of us sort of jamming out and having that conversation about legacy and about your brother and that kind of thing?
Well, I do, obviously, I recall that, but I remember that the specific difference for me from that podcast was that I remember telling my wife it was the first time I'd been interviewed about marketing. That's what it felt like, because I did a few podcast interviews that week. I remember back then I was doing quite a few of them, and it was all about coping with the changes, being resilient. It was about the things that I used to talk about way more, mindset and coping strategies and legacy. And so having that conversation with you, I just remember thinking, whoa, that was really weird. It was the first time I'd kind of spoken about some of the marketing stuff as well, which was, what I took from that.
Personally for me, it was interesting because at that time, it was this kind of unknown kind of, wow, I've got Tommy on the podcast, because you were like this unobtainable person, right? Like for me, it was like this kind of I just seen you through your content, and we had sort of had very brief conversations, oh hi, how are you, etc., that kind of thing. Did you kind of have at that time in your head an idea of, okay, cool, I may want to work with Colin, or I can see a world where I could use Colin's skill set, or etc.?
I guess I didn't really have an idea of what it was going to end up looking like or be like. So I had my options open, of course, but it wasn't like I knew that then, if that makes sense.
Okay, then winding the clock, say forward 2 months or so, I'm just trying to get the background done quickly. There was obviously an initial conversation that we had. From what you can remember and what you can recall, how what was your sort of mindset or goals or etc.? Can you just kind of give your perspective on that conversation, specifically our first conversation?
So I knew that I needed help to amplify what I was doing, and to be able to position it in a way that felt a certain way when the viewer consumed the content. And so in order to have that, I would need a person there with me holding the camera. And I'd had experience with having vlogs before and having personal camera videographers with me in other ventures that I've done. And so I had that. I knew what it felt like, and I was kind of looking for that again. So having that chat with you that first time was, I remember sort of calculating it, weighing it up in my head as I was talking to you, because it was a risk to take that approach back then. But what I thought was, actually, it's just as much of a risk as for you as it is for me. So I thought that's a common ground, that's a level playing field. And so that was what kind of led us to making something happen there and then, which you went away and thought about, and then came back and we agreed on. And you've been filming the goings on here and listening to my voice countless hours every week since.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, why was it? Why do you feel it was a risk for me specifically? I mean, I obviously know that, and I'll go into it afterwards. But I'm interested to hear kind of from your side why you felt it was a risk specifically for me.
Because you were stepping into something which you didn't know. It's the unknown. Whenever it's the unknown, there's a risk involved. You know, it was a commitment of getting on the train and traveling to Andover and being able to work with me in terms of the way I work, which if I can get away with not doing a draft or a plan or a storyboard, I'll fucking get away with not doing one, because the admin side of things is not fun for me. And I don't like blending something I find very fun, which is making videos and having somebody film what's going on, with too much rigid kind of, this is where we need, you know. So that's why, because my way of working is not, it's not that easy. I like to make things straight to it, and tend not to want to plan or overthink things, and that can be difficult sometimes to work in that environment. So that's why it's a risk, because you're very, and I knew this from our first podcast when you said to me it'll be out in like 4 weeks time. You know, I thought to myself, well, this guy has a plan. He has a backlog of episodes he's working on already. He has a certain way of editing it. And I knew that already. So that's why I thought, okay, it's a risk here, because it's a commitment of time and energy, but also you don't know what's going to feel like working it.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I think for me, it was an interesting kind of step, and it's only benefited me from like a product media perspective as well, as you know, because it's kind of allowed me to sort of take what I'm learning and then instantly transplant it into Brunter Media, if that makes sense, like straight away. And for me, I think it was very interesting to sort of see the progression already. It's only been like 4 or 5 months, but it's still been quite a significant amount of progression, I think, for me personally. Anyway,
Yep.
and you know, the main question I think comes from that is, have you seen progression in well, obviously me, but then also then the question becomes, have you seen progression in what Tide was going to be when we our initial conversation to now?
Yeah. So let's start with you. You've worked really hard, and you've got this great attitude that is, you're very resilient. You're like a rubber ball. You know, you'll come back and you'll take it. You know, you've taken feedback. You've been able to not get dramatic about things when they haven't quite worked out well or right in the ideal world, and you've been able to take that on board. You know, you've shown that consistently, and I think in terms of the journey of where you've come since that start, you've been able to do things faster. You know, you've been able to turn things around at the pace that I'm looking for, which is important. But because we had so much happening, and we're pouring into the cup all the time, there was a lot there. So we're only just now getting to the point where we're having the vlogs under control. So there's a backlog of episodes, because I'm just like, film more. So I think if you look at what you've been able to do, how you've been able to change speed, pace, cadence, your attitude, you know, I know that these skills are going to be a platform for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to recognize. In the short term, we joke about tide time. Tide time's just different to normal time. You know, you could have done a whole year in a sort of incubation with what's going on here. You know, it feels like probably that you've done as much volume as a whole year would feel in most situations, where someone might do, I don't know, like a not an apprenticeship, an internship. You know, that because you made that very clear as well at the start, which was like, okay, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to be able to sponge everything and learn everything.
Yeah.
Being in this incubation, being in around this, so that's important as well to recognize that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then how have you seen a change in, well, the obvious evolution in Tide, but is it where you expected it to be in regards to, like, from our initial starting conversations, or like the initial our starts to the vlog that weren't actually the start to the vlog, but our start to the vlog, I think we call it internally as Vest Day. That was a good day. That was very entertaining. How has, like, is Tide where you, like, expected it to be, like, from then, what you thought it would be now, or has it sort of changed and evolved?
Yeah, oh yeah, like, okay. So the best way to explain that, the best way to describe it is, the really high diving boards. Yeah, that day, Vest Day, okay, which was, for everyone listening, the first time Carlton came in with me and we recorded some footage, was like walking down the diving board. Like, I'm walking down the diving board. I've already climbed up to the top of the tower. I said I'm going to do it, and now I'm doing it. So I'm walking across the diving board. I can feel the springiness underneath, and it's intimidating me because I've got to jump off it. But not only have I got to jump off it, I've got to execute the move I want to make, and I've got to land elegantly to get a good score for the judges. And that day felt like the first couple of steps where you just, you start to build that intent in your movement to go like bum bum bum, and as a diver would go like bum bum bum, two big steps and then one double-footed step, bang, spring straight up. It felt like the first boom step. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was intimidated by it still. I still didn't know whether it was right, wrong. Was I clutching at straws? Was I desperate? What was going on? We're in the middle of a pandemic. Am I making the right move here? Is this going to fall on its face? Am I going to fall on my face, or am I going to be able to get good enough power, good enough momentum, good enough inertia to get into the air, to be able to then move the way that I want and need and know I can, and land without making a hideous splash and belly flopping. So where it's gone now is that we've actually, I think we're at the point where our hands have just touched the water. So we've done the move, executed the move, and now hands are touching the water. And now it's for the market to decide what the score is. And that's in the feedback that we get from clients, because, we work on 3-month service plans most of the time. So, we're coming to the end of the first lot of 3 months. And so our results are going to be interpreted by the market, by our clients and customers. So yeah, like, what's cool about that is you can't go back up and change the somersault. The somersault's already been done. It's in the landing now, and it's just trusting what you've done is the right thing. So that's the best way of explaining it. And I guess in a nutshell, yeah, as I'm hitting the water, I'm thinking that was a good dive. I think we're going to be okay here, but you still don't know until those scorecards get held up.
No, of course. I mean, for me, I think I relate to that a lot, because I think as as I've kind of felt it, and as I've been with you through that journey, there has definitely been times where we're like, okay, So I think it's good to sort of, I guess, reflect on that, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring you back on the podcast anyway, to sort of, jam out about that and sort of see where your mindset was in that regard as well. And I also think it gives you quite a nice platform, and that's why I think one of our key things as how we merit quite well is we can quite easily choose two narratives to go with specifically. One that's more Tide specific, and then one that's more emotional driven because of the other content which I create from the same interactions. And I think that's always going to be a benefit to us, because we can show different style. Like, we may not want to show it officially for Tide because of obvious reasons, but we can then sort of show more of the behind the scenes instead of just the gloss behind the scenes, if that makes sense. And I know you said to me, was probably a month to 2 ago now, that you wanted to show more of what was going wrong, so to speak. Do you think that, well, firstly, have I shown more than similar? Have I shown through the vlogs what's more going wrong? Number one, and then number two, do you think that if the vlog wasn't there, you would have navigated those problems slightly differently?
I think it's difficult when you, because what we're talking about is vulnerability, and when you open, when you want to be publicly vulnerable, you lose the essence of that vulnerability because you're still choosing to show it. Um, However, I think there is a sweet spot where showing it can actually empower you to keep doing it because you become then accountable to somebody else. So I think it is quite an interesting recipe. Um, so to answer your question, have you, and have we been able to show that vulnerability? I think enough. I think there's probably moments where or stories within what's been happening in the last few months where we could have shown more of that. But putting it bluntly, it brings you in as well because some of the vulnerability has been a shared thing because we've had problems that we've both shared. So I think that we've done the right thing, and we can always tell the stories later and after the fact. Um, and then would I have navigated it differently? Yeah, because of that accountability, because you know that content's going to go out and people are going to watch it, and then they're going to make their own minds up as to what's going on. That does hold you accountable, because then, and it's important not to end up to the beck and call of your audience or to pander to your audience, because you need to know what you make of it first. If you rely on the opinion of the viewer, then you'll navigate the next video to try and please that mindset of that person. So it's very important that when putting out content that is quite vulnerable or personal, that you're able to make sense of it yourself before you can put it out there. Because otherwise you'll be vulnerable when you don't need to be vulnerable, which is in terms of what people make of it, and taking that on board as your own belief. You need your own belief first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which
No,
is why, in a way,
absolutely.
it's been quite nice to have like at least a 2 week lag on when content is out, because you know that when people are watching it, you've already answered the question
Hmm. Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that was never like a plan. We're like gonna go into it. We're gonna have a 2 week lag. That was just what happens when you have a vlog that I film every week, and then it actually takes longer than a week to produce a vlog.
Yes.
like that's just like production wise can be sometimes slower, especially when it's quite a big vlog. Like if we go somewhere or there was a production or etc. Those vlogs normally are a lot slower to turn around just because of the sheer volume of content. Would you say like between say like when I started with you and now, is there like a favorite moment specifically? So that might be like a negative moment, that might be a moment that like specifically jumps to your mind or etc. Is there like a specific moment that you think really showcases why, well, maybe why the vlog was important, but also then for you personally, it's very good to have that footage so then you can personally look back at it in a year, 2, 6 months, whatever it may be, to sort of cherish that moment, I guess, or sort of say, oh, and sort of see where those sort of cogs were. I'm sure there's many, but like, is there a favorite one, or is there like one that specifically jumps to mind?
Yeah, there's three moments, two of which are on camera. One is the car park with the basketball.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a special moment in our company growth.
For
It's just
for the viewer who doesn't know, would you mind just explaining what happened briefly there? Only because if anyone
yes,
hasn't watched our vlogs or my mini docs, they won't know.
sure. You and I were shooting a promotional video, and on that video shoot, I had a text message from one of the people I spoke to, companies that I spoke to right at the start of the company's creation. And back then, they kind of said yes to some of the things that knew I would be able to help them with, but they weren't ready. And you never know with that. When people say yes, but sometimes it can just be a polite way of saying no. But sometimes it can be a genuine yes, but, which is for them, it was yes, but not now. So where I like to do business and how I've always done things is to just think next, next, next. And so I don't hold on to maybes. I'll do my best to bring them across to yes, because I know that I can do something for them. and that's what they wanted at the end of the day. But if they are still sat on the fence, I'm not going to sit there with them. I'm going to go and find others that I can go and help and grow my company. So you and I were on a promotional video shoot. They text me. We arranged a phone call for 1 o'clock. We finished the shoot at 12:30. 1 o'clock came. They hadn't called. We were so hungry and thirsty because we were on the shoot all morning. 1:10, they hadn't called. 1:15, they hadn't called. I didn't want to come across needy and text them and be like, "Hey, are we still okay for one?" At 1:15 at this point. I think it must have been about 1:25 in the end that they called. And the result of that phone call was them just saying, "We're in," which was the biggest client that we've had at that point, until that point, certainly. A complete rebrand, new logo, new branding, new website, new assets, marketing strategy, the works. So it was a big deal. It was like graduating, stepping through 5 leagues, getting promoted at five leagues at once. It was a nice moment. So that definitely ranks up there. That's in the top 3. That's in the top 3 moments. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the other two.
The other two. So one was a moment that's not on camera, which was when I came and spoke to you about what we were going to be doing for this Reading shoot.
Yeah.
And you had to accept what I was saying as the right thing to do, based on me calling the shot of what the company needs, and being able to put your own ego to the side to be able to say, "Yep, I want to be involved in this project," which is what you said. I didn't expect you to. You said, "I want to be involved in this project." And actually, what about if I do this for you instead? You offered to concentrate on the vlog, come with me and film behind the scenes. And I hadn't thought that as possible, but you suggested it. And so that was a really great moment, because not only did you accept what I was saying, which was basically, "Look, I'm not picking you for this game. Right? I'm putting you out of the team for this match, and I'm bringing someone in to fill that position instead." You said, "Okay, I understand. How about I do that instead?" And I'm like, fantastic. What a great suggestion. So the attitude to be able to accept that, and then to be able to suggest another solution that would benefit the day, was great. And then that leads on to number 3. And number 3 was some content that was produced as a result of that day. And that was the footage of us out there doing our thing, going and doing 2 video gigs in one day, and then showing that to, it was a proud moment for me, because I posted that on all my networks and all my platforms. And until then, I'd been quite reserved over what I might post on my personal Instagram, what I might post on my Facebook business page, because I've changed businesses, I've changed careers, I've changed jobs here. And a lot of people don't know yet what it is I'm doing. That they're living their own life. What do they care about what Tommy Gentleman's up to? But putting those videos out was very proud, because it was like, not only am I doing this, but I've been doing this. And I'm doing it at a high level. So it's not like it's just a new idea that I've come up with, or, "Hey guys, check it out in a year's time." No. This is it. Living it, doing it day in, day out. And that's what I like. I like that style. So you allowed me to portray that message. So those are my top 3 things. And those 3 things, it's hard to know the value of those things, as to what value they're bringing now, and because they're on the internet in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think for me that was interesting to hear, because when you said 3, I was like, okay, so one of them is going to be the basketball one. I have no idea what the other 2 are, but one of them is going to be the basketball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only reason why I just give context to the viewer is because we talk about that basketball moment a lot internally, because it was a turning point in Tide. I think is the best way to describe it. It was as Tommy just explained, it was what was going to change what we did moving forward. Right? It basically, from that day and then the lead on days, that basically changed my role internally, now correct me if I'm wrong here, but basically focus on the vlog, and that is the main thing we need you to do, because XYZ, because it's worth our time, because it's going to get us the clients which we're looking for, where Tide is looking to go. That is the best use of your energy, time and effort and skill. Am I correct in saying that, or would you disagree?
Yep, and it still is, and it still is. And one thing that I've learned about your craft that I didn't appreciate as much before, now that I'm running an agency, I need to,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a big part of it. It's a big part of the media mix, isn't it? Is just how wide the scope of different skills are within what we would just as layman's terms call video, right? You've got the filming of the video. You've got different types of filming, whether it's with people speaking or not, whether it's in a studio or in a reality scene. You know, what are the variables that you can control, like lighting and texture and shape? You can't, and sound, you can't control them all the time in what we're doing. And so it's very action, it's very thrill, it's very documentary. And I know how diverse that is then compared to editing, making videos out of the footage, editing for different styles, formats, different results, different objectives, different people. Editing itself is its own thing. Then you've got all the other aspects to the audio. And you know, I think what I appreciate about you, which I haven't been able to see until recently, is how you didn't whinge about all that. You knew all that, but you didn't complain about it, because you could have gone, well, you know, when you film like this happens, or when this, you can't do this. And I think, you know, because of the moments where we have had situations similar to that, you know that doesn't go very far with me. But I'm just like, either do it and make it happen, or not. You know.
Yeah, I think the best scenario was I can't remember the context of the conversation, but it was something along the lines of either the client isn't going to care or you're not going to care. All they're going to sound is however genuine they are in regards to like the reasons, they're just going to sound like excuses for someone who doesn't understand the videography world, right?
That's it, mate. That's it.
So I think if a listener is going to take anything from this, I think that is the key thing they should take from it, which would be, if you're in a situation where a client's saying we need this by this time, blah 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 blah, they don't particularly care if it's going to take you till 4 a.m. If you tell them you can do it by the next morning, you do it by the next morning. If that means you have to be up all night, that means you have to be up all night, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You know, it's there's I don't know how specifically to articulate it, but it's one of those things where you either have it or you don't, right? Like, as I've met videographers who I'm like, oh yeah, they have it, right? I've also met videographers who go, okay, they don't have it. And there's no specific like, oh, you are willing to do this, this, and this, so you have it. But you just sort of get it, right? When you, especially if you do video and you sort of, you know, as you shoot more and as you understand that, oh wow, that's actually going to take, like, for example, a hyperlapse takes forever to shoot. It's 4 seconds long, right? To like the post work, or you know, an edit which is maybe 10 minutes long for us in the vlog is actually about 7 hours of footage, or etc. Right? Like, that's not an uncommon thing with the vlog, or etc. You know, so it's those things that are like, the skill in editing isn't actually like, oh look, I'm gonna make it really showy, oh cool, I'm gonna make it all this. It's, do you understand what bits actually are like really, 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 really important for the story and have to stay in, and what bits can you actually cut out? We've had situations where you go to me, you don't give me any context outside of, it's currently 24 minutes, we need it to be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Right, okay, great, fab.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it's like, okay, well, then what is the narrative? What's the objective we're trying to tell here, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do I tackle that? And something which you haven't seen yet, because I haven't shown you, is I'm trying to weave in some of my editing workflow into the vlog, just to see what happens, to see whether you like it, see whether you don't. And just give some context, like, Tommy hasn't seen those episodes yet. That's why he, like, this would be news to him, because they're coming in you know, some of the remote vlogs, because I've spent a lot of my time editing whilst being in lockdown and etc. So, I mean, just briefly winding back, there was a question I wanted to ask you about, because I made a key decision not to film the conversation which you marked as number 2 on the favourite list. Do you feel that was the correct decision? Because
Which conversation?
so the conversation where we talked about you basically using your sporting analogies, you'll be really proud of me. Basically, me not being on the field that game, right? Like, in using a football analogy.
Yeah.
So I mean, I made a key. I could have filmed it, right? I could have done. The camera was there. I made a conscious decision not to film it. Do you think that was firstly the right decision, and then secondly, do you think that we're going to regret that decision later on in the future?
I don't think we'll regret it, because I think that's the thing. If you miss a shot, you can still explain what had happened in different ways, like we are now, I guess. I think it was the right thing to do, because it's such it's such a different energy when a camera is on. Even when you're accustomed to it and you know that it happens all of the time, it still plays on your unconscious mind, and you treat it personally. I think we as humans treat it like there's someone else in the room, but we can, like, it's like a joker card in a deck. That card could be anything. You can make that card anything you want it to be. It's the same with the camera. So that camera could be anyone you want it to be. So, I could be thinking, oh, I could be thinking about your mum. I could be thinking your mum might watch this, and so I've joker carded that camera as your mum. Or it might be that one of our customers. I'm thinking about them, so that I've joker carded that camera as it's them. So then it changes anyone's organic approach to a conversation when someone else is going to hear it, or is watching. So yeah, like, even situations where you're that used to it, that's still valid. So I think it was the right thing to do, because I took it very seriously. It's very sensitive, and in those sensitive conversations, you've got to be able to kind of make it very clear, and give the other person, give each other a chance to let things land, and be able to respond to them.
Yeah, I think for me it was important not to make that conversation seem as if it was a content play, even though it would have been a
Exactly,
really
yeah.
good piece of content. Just from a vlog perspective, I think it would have been very, very good, but I think it would have twisted and changed the conversation, not because we had meant it to change, just because of that's how it would have happened, right? And I think for me that's why consciously my brain, sometimes my brain's like, okay, this I should film discreetly, right?
Hmm.
We might not use it at all, but I think it's valuable to still film. And there's, I
Hmm.
think, a trust that we have. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think there's a trust that we have where you may, I think, have a kind of an idea whether a camera's filming or not. You may not. I don't know. But you also trust that if I'm filming a conversation, it's for a reason, and it's not just, oh, I feel like spying on the conversation, or etc. Right? It's normally because I think there's going to be a small clip that we're going to want to use, or I need it for something, or whatever. So, firstly, do you have that? And secondly, do you think you'll develop that if you don't?
I think it's important in any vlog. I love the scenes in Reading where we're walking, or where we're in the office of the client, and you're filming, and it's harmless footage. There's nothing sensitive, private, or important that we're filming. But it's great because it makes the viewer feel like they're there with us, and that's the whole point of reality TV. Um, and how I favour the approach, the look, and the feel of reality TV. There's a fine sort of line, and an interesting blend between reality TV and documentary, and being able to bring out educational, like, it's I'll tell you what it is, mate. The two E's. There's the two E's. If a video doesn't have at least one of the two E's, then it's not a good video, and that's education or entertainment. And if you can bring the two together, and you can make it entertaining because it's curiosity, it's action, it's, oh, look what's going on, and it's the sound, and it's the music, but it's the backtrack, because that's all part of entertainment. I'm big personally on the music that we use, and the transitions in between, because that's entertaining. It feels nice. It's nice to watch. And then the education, which is, hey, look, this is why we're doing this over here, and this is how we write this out, and this is what this client is doing, so this is what we're doing for them. That's the perfect combination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that any content, and I hope this is also that, should be educational and entertaining at the same time. Now, that is not an easy thing to do, right? By the way, that's not easy to do. But if you can do it, that's why content will go viral. That's why content will be engaging to your viewer. That's why you'll be able to make a meaningful connection with whoever's watching it, because they'll actually understand who you are as a person, and not this character in the vlog. Right? I think for me, the vlogs are the best interpretation of someone knowing you without meeting you. Right?
Yeah,
That's
and that's
that's
massive. That's why we're doing it.
That's what I hope comes across, and that's what I hope I do in regards to that's my role there, right? In Tide, that's what I do, right? And I think it's important for people who are looking to do a vlog and etc. My vlog as well. I did my vlog for the same reason that we're doing your vlog or Tide's vlog, whatever you want to call it, because I've done my vlogs for years. There is areas on the internet where you can see the videos I was making when I was age 12, all the way up to age now, right? And that will be true for the rest of my life, right? There'll obviously be stuff I don't share. There'll obviously be stuff that's still personal, and I deliberately cut out. I may film it and I go, actually, I don't actually want to share that right now, right? And it's the same with Tide as well. We have conversations that, like, there's 4 that I remember specifically clearly that hasn't seen the light of day yet, because it's not that they're not contextually relevant. I bet would be probably what you were gonna answer if I asked it. They're not contextually relevant yet. They're very good to capture in the moment for us to say in a year's time what was happening a year ago, what was the conversation like a year ago, etc. More for internal use more than it was necessarily a let's show how good we're doing, let's show how bad it is, let's show how not bad it is, or etc.
Yeah. It's another benefit as well of having somebody that's been there since the beginning is that you have a memory as well as I do. So imagine something happens in 3 months' time, or even in 3 years' time, and you go, you said something about that
multiple times.
Oh, where was it? And then you're looking through the footage, and it's like, oh, there it is. Look, in August 2020, you said bang, and then now it's happened, and then you go, wow, that's it. That's the magic.
Yeah, and that's like, if you want to answer the reason why that's why you should have a vlog, because it gives you those ways to get. We were having a conversation on Tuesday in this week's vlog about stuff that you were doing at the start of Lunar, and it was like, well, okay, well, I've got footage of that meeting, I've got footage of this happening, I've got footage of that, I've got footage of that, so it puts me in a very strong position to cut the video together because I can use all that footage, I can show it. Yeah, maybe those weeks didn't become a full featured episode in regards to, like, we've scrapped, I think now 7 to maybe more episodes of the vlog, but that's because we both look at it and go, well, yes, it was a nice fun editing exercise, but it's actually fucking boring,
Yeah.
or there's actually just there's not enough going on, or etc. I think what we might find with the lockdown vlogs, because at the time of recording we haven't released any yet, what we might find is we might just do it as one compilation. This was something I was thinking of last night. It's just one compilation.
I texted you the other day,
Yeah, I mean, just to give some context, like, Tommy basically was bored of the vlog, not necessarily from an editing standpoint, but he was bored of his own vlog, and I
turned it off after 5 minutes and thought, I can't put myself through watching another 20 minutes of that.
Yeah. So
if I'm saying that, and I do have a bit of a vested interest in it, then someone else might be like, oh, what's this?
Yeah. And I like this as kind of been a premier, like, sort of brainstorm in the podcast as well, because I think for me the best idea to move the vlog forward for the lockdown period, as looking at timings, there's probably only going to be a week or 2 anyway. I think the best thing to me to do is to cut all of the episodes we've done during lockdown and cut them into one episode, personally.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But we can talk about that afterwards, but I think my last question was going to be, right now we are towards the end of 2020. We got a month to go, right?
Yes. Yep.
You know what? I like getting you to articulate what you feel is going to be the future right now in this moment. And the reason why I do that, for the viewer's context, Tommy already knows this, but is so in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it is, we can look back and see, well, did it happen, or did it change, or did it twist, or did it become something different, right? Like that's why you should ask that question if you're working with anyone. If you're a videographer and you're doing a vlog for a company, ask the owner how their mindset is in that moment, because their mindset and their feelings right there and then will not be the same ever again. So with that merit, where do you see Tide in 2021 specifically? Where's it going to go? What's it going to do? What's it going to be like? And then the follow-on question is, how do you think the vlog's going to develop?
Well, I think Tide's going to be in a position where people are going to know what we're up to, and they're going to want it. Businesses are going to want us in their corner, and they do now, but it's a small amount of them because nobody yet has seen or knows or understands quite the level that we're playing at here. And I think it's very easy to come across on social media and stuff, and because of the audience that we have, which is mostly people I already knew who have kind of followed us across, they just assume that we're starting from scratch here. This is not a scratch exercise. I've had over 10 years of learning and practicing this, being able to develop the skill sets required, not just to carry out the work, but to build a crazy good team and to be able to execute on that, to get work and to manage that dynamic. So we're forced to be reckoned with. We're going to grow. We'll be 3 times, 4 times as big on all levels: people, revenue, client base, level of clients we're working with in terms of how big their projects are. So I think it's next year is going to be, we're on a fast growth at the moment, and we're going to keep doing that fast growth until we get to the point where I feel like we're in the league that we should be in, and then we just concentrate on winning that league. Sporting analogies, I love them. That's how I see it. So we've got a great base, great foundation, and I'm excited about that. In terms of the vlog, is an integral part of what we're doing, and I want it to become. I want us to be doing even more things, that there's even more things to film, and to include eventually some more of the kind of office input dynamic when the time's right. And I think just having you available to be able to come on projects that we're doing, come out and see what's going on, record that process, that's really important as well. So I'm excited about that, and it's never something I'll stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, cool. That's kind of everything I had. So I know we're pushed for time, and I know you got a lot to do today. So let's wrap it up there. But for those people who would be interested in sort of seeing your perspective on Tide and etc., for obvious reasons they can see mine here. But how is best for them to see your side and your perspective? Where's best for them to go?
I mean, the Tide.55 on Instagram is the best place to follow the goings on. To get an insight into my input on that, then at Tommy Gentleman on Instagram, or following from a business perspective on LinkedIn, follow me on there because, or connect with me on there, because I've started to use that a lot more, and we're doing a lot more to put content on there too. So anywhere really, but specifically Instagram and LinkedIn.
Fab. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for the time, as always. And I'll talk to you in a moment.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I'm glad to be back.